What is freaking happening, traders? God bless each and every single one of you guys. Hope you're having a stand-up freaking day. And today in the markets, we saw a green day, baby, on AMC. Mr. Gary the Goose coming through clutch. And overall, right, looking at the broader markets, IWM outperforming the S&P 500 and closing above the 9-day EMA, something that you actually cannot say for the S&P. Right. So that's very interesting watching the overall small cap market outperform the blue chips, kind of like we've been saying. Right. So it's not surprising for us, but interesting to see that thesis continue to play out here as you see IWM begin to outperform the larger cap stocks and stocks like AMC, right, beginning to outperform the blue chips. So that's absolutely pivotal to what we kind of see coming here on AMC, but on the short-term time frames, on the daily time frame particularly, you found another bounce off of this 50 line on the RSI and a potential breakout of this falling wedge structure on the support, which is your all-time resistance line, right? My man Gary the Goose coming in clutch, throwing him down right now. And over the last 3 days, what you've seen on AMC is increasing volume. Now, we began to get a little bit worried here, but as long as you hold this underbelly of support on this falling wedge, all will be okay. But what I'm watching for in terms of a bullish perspective here is you've now double tapped your freaking 50 line and found a beautiful bounce every single time. It's not often that happens. And you can see all the rejections, right? This one right here off the 50 line, this bounce off the 50 line, and then you reject it later. But it's not very often that you see this kind of price action. So we should be grateful for what we have right now. And if it continues to break out, guys, not only would you be above your previous resistance, which is this falling wedge structure with the price target that leads you back to the part of your handle, right? That horizontal resistance will be tested if you see this breakout continue. Why do I think it's likely? 2 reasons. I need you guys to lock in, right? Slap the subscribe button, hit the like button, and let's get it. Let's go. All right. Why do we think it's going to break out? You have one thing particularly, which is the volume, right? The volume on the stock is increasing over the last 3 days, and you've just printed another day increasing with bullish volume, 19.23 million traders. Another reason, on the 4-hour chart, you've already broken out. Trick question, right? On the 4-hour chart, you came down off of this high here to sweep the lows. You tapped your 4-hour 200-day EMA. From that, you carved your bottom and you saw a beautiful breakout that you're now basing above the 50, right? So on the 4-hour time frame, this is what I like to call our momentum time frame, right? This thing is absolutely looking delicious, and I think it's likely you now come up here if you can break above 260, which is going to be that next level of resistance. Why is that? That's exactly your level right here that you rejected in this left shoulder, right? So we went up and tapped today 259. It's no coincidence, traders, that we saw that exact level tap here. And if you can see this thing continue to base outside of this falling freaking wedge, it is likely, in my opinion, that you get this 9 crossing through the 50 on the 4-hour chart, which, if you guys do not know, will most likely result in an impulsive move up to this 274 area in which you've had this base, and now probably this rejection before seeing a higher high. But that is kind of the short-term time frame for AMC. You're absolutely cooking with grease, baby. And I love this look of the falling wedge, this bullish consolidation before a potential next leg higher. And to be honest, traders, I know we had our handle shown out like this, right? That this could potentially be our handle of the cup and handle, but who's to say it's not the falling wedge, right? And if that is the case, traders, if this is your cup and handle, then it is likely, my friends, that you see this kind of explosive move higher. And where would that lead us? Almost directly into the last couple touches, right? Last couple highs have come along this trend line. That trend line tap happens right around 440 to 438, right? And so we expect to see some hesitancy around that mid 4 area. It's just natural that you would then seek that higher leg to the upside, right? So not surprising to see that technical profit target. In fact, it's pretty confluent with what we think is going to happen, right? We've constantly said on this channel that we think you'll see some resistance at 318, chop around there, see some resistance around 408, chop, and then you'll probably mark that as your high on this local run before maybe spilling over and looking to fill either gaps or just consolidate to base higher. But this chart looks freaking phenomenal. I'm super, super happy with what you've done. And on the freaking weekly time frame, you're now printing a bullish hammer candle, right? And so not only did you get what we talked about in the last video, you got the falling wedge breakout on the 4-hour chart, but you're now seeing this absolutely beautiful hammer freaking candle. So now what happens next is going to be interesting. You're officially printing a green week with only 44 million shares traded and only 2 days left, traders. So unless you see this volume really begin to crack up here, which you may with the breakout, this downtrend in volume, guys, is absolutely insane to me. And you've had 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks currently of lowering volume. Oftentimes, the volume is what's going to tell the story here, right? You see these volume trends break in a very explosive manner, right? This is the kind of candle, the 256 million shares traded candle that I would expect from a breakout of this. Saw the retest of the freaking 9 weekly EMA, which we called in our previous video. And if you hold this, guys, just hold right here. Truthfully, this is one of the strongest closes you can have to AMC on the week that would then gear you for a larger scale move on the freaking macro, in my opinion, right? I'm not a financial advisor. Do not take this as financial advice, but I'm absolutely jacked on what this chart is shaping up to be. And luckily, you may just avoid that bear case scenario in which you come down to the gap fill at 205 and then tap this uptrend. So, right, we talked about us going up to this mid 4s area. We talked about possible hesitancy around this 318 area. Something that we did not talk about fundamentally, right? AMC crushing every single fundamental record was something that I found interesting. On Polymarket posted this, but I've seen multiple people post it as well. Just in AMC and Fandago systems crashed due to surging demand for Dune Part 3. And I think this is interesting, right? You're seeing more and more kind of box office hits hit the streets. And I'm also seeing that the new Avengers movie that comes out in December is already breaking pre-sale records upwards of $1 billion. So in terms of the earnings for AMC, right, those are coming up relatively soon. November, right? So you have a couple months of trading price action here, but it's going to be very, very interesting based off of the earnings you just had, right? Record freaking earnings, record EBITDA, record revenue. This was a surprise, right? In revenue, just how crazy it can get for this, right? You're estimated to lose 4 cents a share, but I think it's likely that you post profitability again. I really do, with everything that happened with Spider-Man and now Dune. I think it's likely. So let's see. Yes. Let's look at the Bollinger Bands. So the Bollinger Bands, fascinating enough, you're kind of sitting directly on top of this mid band, but the bands are still squeezing, right? So my boy John Bollinger is still consolidating within this larger falling wedge. Once you do pop up here, expect some resistance on this top band of the 4-hour, right around this 260 territory, right? It would be no coincidence to find hesitancy there before letting these expand and then going and rising higher. So watching for that actively on the 4-hour chart, I think it's interesting to see that we're kind of consolidating right on top of this mid band. It looks really good. You've done it before, right? Kind of scaling back here. you found hesitancy at that mid band before scaling above it, retesting, and going. This may be a very similar circumstance on AMC in which you're literally consolidating before a move higher, right? Before a rip. So I believe you're going to see it, right? I really, really do. Let's look at GME. Look at my boy Jimmy. So GameStop seeing a doji on the freaking chart and a lessening of volume, right? Volume down, bearish momentum down, and an overall bullish close, in my opinion, up 0.45% on GameStop and up in the after hours as well. So overall, a good close on GameStop and potentially, right, beginning to form what could be a morning star formation, a leg down, doji, and then a potential leg up into the 9-day EMA. We're currently watching for significant resistance right around 1861. That is your 9-day EMA. But if you can see this potential reversal here, mount above that, because this 9 is so oversold, as well as GameStop on the freaking daily chart, guys. Now seeing one of the most oversold periods. And to be honest, guys, look at where you are. Right. I don't think you've seen this in a very long time, but I want you to pay attention. You have not seen the RSI band dip into the oversold territory since back here. Right. And although this was not your bottom by any stretch of the imagination, look at the V-shape recovery here that you saw on GME. You saw this RSI, this yellow band, go into the oversold territory, and then getting back above that becomes insanely easy, right? And look at this 20% move in just 9 freaking days, right? 9 bars. You're now doing the exact same thing, right? So if you hold where you are currently and begin to rally here, let's say you get that morning star formation, 20% is directly back into your gap fill. So I would be very cautious if you're trying to play this thing short, right? Trying to be in line with the market trends. I think there's a good possibility that you snapshot, right? You slingshot right back up here into the gap fill because of that fact, right? Looking historically, if you're going off of that trend, would not be surprised in the least, right? That doesn't mean that it's not going to be a lower high and then you spill over again. Very possible, right? I would not like to see that, but it's very possible because that is the only time in GME's history, except for 2019, that you've seen the RSI band on the daily visit the freaking oversold territory. That's insane, right? And so when you're seeing that kind of price action, what happened in 2019 when you had that happen? Pretty similar, right? Stock capitulated like crazy. Gap fill dollar came all the way up to 140. Lower high up 21%. Capitulation again. Same thing, right? RSI band trading and oversold, getting back above it inevitably, right? Led to this 113% move. So not even talking fundamentally, not even talking short interest. There's a very good opportunity on the charts that this thing recovers about 20%, right? And that's not nothing. That is not nothing. So we're watching for that on GameStop. You have earnings coming up relatively soon, coming up September 9th, right? So you're about 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out from GME's earnings, and most likely, right, you'll see it report profitability. Whether or not it breaks the estimate with revenue is often what makes or breaks GameStop. Because the last couple of earnings, even though you've came back profitable, this one you actually did surprise in revenue plus 9%, but the stock didn't really do much, right? Shot up, shot down. This one lost revenue by 24%, lost revenue by 16%, surprise revenue by 8%, right? So inevitably, what happens with revenue is going to be interesting. And that's what I'll be watching because GameStop has done an extraordinary job cutting its costs and making itself profitable. So TBD, baby. Let's look at the GME warrants and then we'll wish ourselves adieu. GME warrants came back above this previous horizontal support bar after losing it and closing at the lows. Exactly what I did not expect it to do. But you still rejected the 9-day EMA, currently trading at 156.8 on higher volume. So as long as you continue to base here, if GME sees that like kind of recovery from oversold territory of 20%, I expect you could rally 30% on the GME warrants up and to the right into two freaking schmeckles, baby. Retesting your previous resistance here on the GME warrants. Would not be surprised to see that in the least, but you need IWM to continue higher, right? IWM closed above the 9-day EMA, which is great, right? You filled the gap that you left from this drawdown and you're back above your previous all-time resistance, right? This flag from your all-time high came back, retested it, and now you've regained strength on the broader index. And I'm finally, I think, ready for this thing to begin to move, right? Move into the 300s because it has seen a lot. Let me say that again, a lot of hesitancy around that $300 mark. So this is your moment, right? This is your moment in time in which IWM can stretch into that 318 to 320 zone. And I think it can move very, very quickly. Something that we've always said on this channel and will continue to say is we are in a risk on market. You're seeing it a lot with crypto. You're also seeing it with this index on TradingView, right? IWM/SPY. You're seeing over the last year in price action, really, that IWM is outperforming a lot of the blue chips. This is the best time to be in stocks like AMC and GME. This is what I was actively looking at while saying on AMC, right? I'll overlay with AMC. AMC new pane. Get rid of the RSI. Let's make it a bar chart. It is no freaking surprise, traders. I want you guys to take this away. If you take away anything from this freaking video, take this away, right? When you see IWM outperform S&P, money rotates, and smart money is smart money for a reason, right? You can see you break out of the falling wedge, retest it, you start to trend up. Inevitably, AMC found its bottom in this uptrend, and then so did AMC, right? Begins to mimic IWM's moves. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. And now you've come to a horizontal resistance on AMC. And I think is absolutely quintessential, right? If you break this, break back into this range, AMC can move very, very quickly. So we'll leave it there, guys. Hope you have a fantastic freaking night. Make sure to slap the freaking subscribe button, hit the like button on the way out, and as well as the notification bell so you guys can get the posts right as I post them. It'll show up, pop up on your phone. You guys can be the first to comment because my man Only in Paradise is back, right? And we want to beat that man because he's a bear. So until next time, guys, God bless you and your families. And remember, the best is yet to come. Let's go, Red Peace.